Buddy. Welcome to our 2018 Women in Leadership panel, Lunch and Learn. What? Oh, yeah, well, whatever. I love this panel because we're going to get some stuff done today. We're going to have some deep conversation. The topic of women is very prevalent in the industry and in the world, and hopefully we can provide some guidance and some information based on personal experiences, and help people out there navigate their careers, whatever their career path may take them. With that being said, if you don't mind, if you can take the mic out and pass it around. Pull it out and pass it around, as I like to say, V.
No.
No? Can't say that? Okay,
No.
Sorry. If V, can you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and how you found your way to your current position?
Sure. So I'm Vanecia Carr. I go by V, and I am the Customer and Brand Marketing Director at Domtar Paper. We're right over there where no one from Domtar is in this booth. Thanks for the support, folks. But anyway, I like to think that I make paper sexy. So I also call myself a paper pimp from time to time.
Awesome.
But ultimately, we are trying to take paper and make it cool and really be a resource to our customers, because at the end of the day, we sell white rectangular sheets or big giant rolls, and we just really want to help people understand that there are ways that print on paper can take things to the next level. How I got to where I am. I have been at Domtar for 14 years and sort of had a variety of roles, from customer service, sales operations, forecasting, planning, product marketing, product management, and now full marketing with branding and digital marketing as a component.
And I'd like to mention that Domtar Paper is a Project Peacock pioneer. Was there? That's how it sounds. Domtar Paper was there from day one when I introduced this crazy idea to go to advertising agencies, brands, and corporations and show them about cool opportunities with digital print, paper, and presses. So thank you so much for that. It has grown because of your participation, and I, for one, I'm so happy that you pulled up on me at a D-Scoop with the world's most perfect banana, and that's what we ended up talking about. I had never seen such a pristine banana in my life. It was a pristine banana.
It was a perfect banana. Thank you.
So, and we ended up bonding over a banana, believe it or not.
Random.
Yeah.
Very random. Jules Van Sant, 2018 Girly Award winner. Yes. Who are you, what do you do, and how did you find your way to where you're sitting right now?
Oh my God, who the heck knows, right? It's been, I am a, let's see, I try to just be an inspirational leader in anything that I do. So I've worked in a variety of different printing type of companies, large format screen printing before digital. I've worked in flexography, I've sold offset, I've worked in advertising agencies, and I've bought a lot of printing and worked with designers, brands, helped with creation and implementation of programs. And then I got asked to interview for this job to help the industry out in the States that I now serve. And I had no idea what I was getting into. But I'm married to somebody in the industry, and so I have an intimate love and knowledge. And so the fact that I could get out there and inspire and get people excited again about an industry that was changing was very interesting to me. So with a marketing degree, 3 kids, and more energy than most people have, I took it on. So I've been very lucky and excited about what I've done.
Thanks so much. Pat McGrew.
Hi there.
The abridged version, please.
Yeah, so there are many facets to the brand that is at Pat McGrew. I currently work for Keypoint Intelligence as an analyst, working in production services and solutions as the senior director. But I also do print sample TV as a part of Inkish TV. Morton is waving in the back. He's my partner in crime on that. I have been doing the Is Print Dead podcast with my partner Kevin Crane, who recently just took another job, which means I need to find a new podcast. I am a writer, a blogger, a print triage person, I think, in an awful lot of the different jobs that I've had in years.
I love that
it really
expression.
Is. It kind of goes along with your print rescue idea.
It does, but honestly, I've seen you in action, and that's exactly it. When businesses just don't know what to do, call Pat McGrew. If you don't know what to do, call. If you're in print and don't know what to do, call Pat McGrew.
And Deborah does this frequently because there is a 1-800-PAT that is part of my relationship with Deborah. So anything print, anything that gets ideas to print, workflow, customer communications, multi-channel delivery, I love all of it.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to have an educator on this panel.
Wow, I feel like the little person on this panel. Thank you. No.
You're not. You are in many ways. In many ways, you are the most important on this panel because you are literally on the front lines of growing the industry. And if I'm really going to focus on how we can help you a lot on this panel, because at this point now, it's up to us. These programs are closing down. Somebody told me that one of the graphic communications program had 2 students register for it.
Yikes.
And Clemson is not in that situation. It is one of the better represented graphic communications programs out there, and one of the reasons is Erica Walker, who's a professor there. Erica, can you tell everybody what you do at Clemson, how you found your way there, and why did you choose to help grow the industry, which is really what you're doing?
Excellent. Well, I don't know if I can live up to this introduction, so hopefully I can.
Erica, can you move the, yes, thank you.
Hopefully I can live up to that introduction. Wow, that's really loud. Okay, wonderful. I am a professor at Clemson University. I actually focus on photography, video, web design, entrepreneurship, digital media design, all of that sort of area, but Clemson GC is a very print-focused major. But even printers need all of the content created in order to have things to print. And so I'm on the imaging end of it. I did go through the program before I taught there. And then after that, I was a filmmaker, did feature-length documentaries and things like that. And then I kind of fell into education and found out that there was nothing more enjoyable than watching a student find something that they couldn't put down. All of a sudden an assignment was not an assignment, it was like their life. They wanted to pour everything that they knew how to do into it. And so I am very blessed to get to do that every day.
Another, honestly, industry legend sitting on this panel is Julie Shaffer.
That means old. Industry legend means old.
Infamous.
Infamous.
You could be infamous. Julie has had many iterations in the industry, but the thing that I most remember you about is that you were honestly one of the first people out there talking about digital media before it was something that everyone was talking about, and everyone was like, why is that lady talking about digital media? We're in the printing industry. What does that have to do with us? Well, ha 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 to everybody else, and that's why you always should listen to the women who tell you stuff. Julie, why don't you please tell everybody a little bit about how you found yourself here and what you're currently doing to help the industry?
Sure. And, education's always been a passion of mine, and I was 17 years actually with Printing Industries of America, working on their educational programs. And part of what we did was, and I was very fortunate to be able to find topics that I thought were relevant, the next thing. So we did portable document format at the time when that was a relatively new thing, and wrote a few books about that and talked about it, and I spoke here for many years about that. And then went into web to print, and then digital media, omnichannel media, whatever you want to call it, integrating print with digital topics. And so started doing conferences actually quite before our time on that in the early 2010, 2011 era. Now, since January of this year, I'm here with the Association for Print Technologies, which owns and puts on this show. So happy to be here. And a lot of what I'm doing are the educational programs downstairs. I work on those, and the theater over here, and the tours, and putting new things into this event. And so very excited to continue doing that, and plan to keep doing it well into the future.
One of our up-and-coming industry leaders, certainly somebody who has a strong voice and is an amazing example of a younger person who is rising up through the ranks and is navigating the industry, and her perspective is very interesting and unique and very approachable. Kelly Mallozzi, who will be working very closely with Print Media Center moving forward. I'm honored to welcome you to not only to the panel but to the Print Media Center team. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Deb. And I always thank you because I owe a lot of who I am professionally to you. So thank you. So my name is Kelly Mallozzi. My company is called Success in Print. My business card says I'm a coach, a mentor, and a writer, which are all three true. But for the purposes of being here, I really want to focus on being a mentor. I have been joking the last few days that I'm positively evangelical about attracting young people and women to this industry, so I am honored to be among these giants who are magnificent creatures. But really, we are going to face a massive gap in another number of years, insert number of years here. And so I'm looking out into the crowd and seeing Brittany, who is going to be competing
Yay, Brittany!
Internationally in Russia as a printer. She isn't even graduating college for 2 more years. So my mission and all of our mission should be to get this kid a kick-ass job.
Yes.
Running a press somewhere in this country, and many, many more like her. So I am humbled and honored to be here and positively devoted to every one of you to help in any way that I can.
And that is
So
why
thank
she's
you.
part of this organization and part of Print Media Center, and why I could not be happier that you're going to help me grow this Girls Who Print initiative. We just had a panel before, and a very interesting, concept came up, which is, how do you develop your voice? Women aren't always encouraged to speak their minds, or sometimes if you're in a male-dominated room or industry, you're not sure how can you navigate this without being put into some box that you're unruly or you're the B word or something like that. V, can we start with you? How did you find your voice? And did you ever not have it?
Well, I'm very shy. Not.
And also, what is your advice to finding it?
So sometimes as women, especially in male-dominated industries, I work for a paper company. So if you can imagine what the demographics of that look like, there's a lot of mature white men.
You can say
it's just old. So the
OWG, old white guy.
The reality is there's a challenge that I had in coming into leadership and really having to find the appropriate way to express my opinions and my thoughts and my ideas. And it really only takes a handful of success, things that you can tangibly show that bring value. So sometimes you have to ask for forgiveness versus permission, because sometimes people don't always see the vision and they don't see what you're trying to accomplish. I kind of pioneered digital from a Domtar paper perspective. We're sort of a conservative, risk-averse, slow-to-move organization. And if I had asked for permission to start social media or to start a blog or to launch a magazine or to do any of these things that are, from a paper company perspective, kind of innovative and different and not what paper people should do, I would still not have social media or a blog or a magazine or anything like that.
And I wouldn't have otters in my life.
Did you see the otter
I haven't
today?
seen it yet, but
Okay.
V's social media team sends me otters, and I never knew I loved them until I saw one. Have you ever seen an otter? They're so cute. I can't stand it.
There might be an otter with a Girls Who Print button coming today, which is pretty cool.
Jules, how do you find your voice if you're a young woman in a male-dominated industry, or just how do you find your voice?
Yeah, I learned a little later. I've always had a voice, but I don't know that I respected my own voice as much as I should have when I was younger. And I think it took a while. It took being put into boxes and
Right.
getting myself out of that box and asking for a lot of forgiveness and starting to go, you know what, it matters. Working in a trade association for the printing industry, that was a very interesting journey that I've been on. Many of my peers are now women versus they were almost all men when I came into my job. And it was, the dynamic was very shut down. And I learned through that experience to not shut up. I was probably one of the most vocal people in the meetings. I questioned everything and I listened, but I tried to be empathetic about it, not in your face, but I deserve the respect that anybody in the room deserves. And being the mother of a daughter and 2 sons, I don't see that it's a man or a woman. I see that it's somebody with knowledge and ideas. But we do have to work a little harder. Yeah. But just keep working. Don't give up.
Pat McGrew?
So I can qualify as being an old person. I'm 61. I think I feel 31. I'm a product of Title IX education in the U.S. public school system. And for those of you who are a whole lot younger than me, what that meant was that when I was coming through junior high and high school, we were basically taught we could do anything. We weren't taught that men do this, women do this. You can't go to shop class instead of cooking class just because of your gender. I went to shop class when I was in junior high, not cooking class. To this day, you do not want food I make. So,
But I'll take a print that you produce.
but you'll take a print that I produce. So I wasn't imbued with this idea that I was inferior walking out the door. And by the time I got to college and then I worked in TV news, TV news, male dominated, no question. But it never occurred to me that I was not as good as everybody else. So
Right.
I don't think I ever got treated differently. And as I grew in my career, I simply never, I didn't have that conversation with myself. So I don't have a lot of the horror stories that many of my colleagues do. And I God bless them for surviving them. But I've always just been so maybe loudmouthed and forthright and standing my ground on my beliefs that very few people had the guts to question me. And when they did, it was an entertaining conversation.
Right.
Stand your ground.
Erica, I've spoken to Clemson a few times, and I think you'll appreciate that. I don't really wait for the students to ask questions because they don't. So I called upon them, and guess what? They complained about it. They complained to the dean, who did I think I was to call on them to participate in a class? I am not kidding.
A class that they're paying for.
By the way,
nonetheless.
the professor was on my side and, did the due diligence of whatever the policy was, but they still invited me back. However, that blew my mind. And then I heard that the teachers don't really want to interfere too much with the students feeling that because the students now grade the teachers. And if they are calling on them and the students don't like that, then the teachers can actually get a mad mark. So how in God's name is a student supposed to find their voice if not having one is being protected by everybody? Oh, and damn it, that was a good question.
Wow. Yes. It was a great question.
It was. It just came out of there, right there.
We have It's
Every once in a while.
Education is changing, and what instructors are graded on and how students are being taught K through 12 level before they get to college level is changing. Both the instructors' interaction and, of course, the early employers' interactions as well. So I'm not sure how that's going to look when you guys hire somebody straight out of college. I believe that they're going to need the things I notice is they need more regular feedback. They need a lot of positive feedback, 10 positive for every 1 negative. They don't want to wait 3 years to get an advancement. They want to know that in 6 months they can be advanced. Those are the type of things that I'm seeing in students. But as far as encouraging their voices, I think that some of that happens when they find something they're passionate about. And I think a lot of times school has trained them to be passionate about getting the right marks and getting the right answer. But as soon as they find something they're excited about, they talk. They get loud, and they want more of it.
You're basically saying they don't like me, and that's why they didn't want to talk to me? That's what I heard.
I think maybe
I scare them.
maybe
I
you
know.
scared them a little.
I scared them a little because I call on them. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to know what they want. Everyone was talking before about how do we find women press people. Diana, right? Diane, she's the Konica Minolta press operator right back there, technician. Everybody wave. I met her at Label Expo. You're awesome. Julie.
Deb.
Your voice.
How do you find your voice? What is your advice for people to find their voice in a situation? I'm sure you've been in quite a few situations where your voice was maybe didn't want to be heard. No, I'm serious, because it's when you have good things to say and people don't want to change the way that they're doing things.
Well,
sometimes they just don't want to listen.
I have to say, when I was coming up, and like Pat, we came from an era when women's lib was the thing in the 70s, and we sort of came a bit after that, and I never felt I'm a woman and I can't do this thing. And I was fortunate. The first printing company I went to work for was Hochstetter Printing in Pittsburgh, and the EVP was a woman. And so she kind of took me under her wing, and I had a strong female presence there. So I always felt that I had a voice, and I simply spoke. I never really made any distinctions, and I've always made it a point to work as hard as I can and always think for the future of my company and the industry I'm working in, and try to develop programs for that. So, I don't know that I have to say, I don't know that I can say that I felt that much of a struggle with that. I simply believe that it doesn't matter who you are. You work to the best of your ability, you work hard, and you prove yourself. I know what I have to contribute, and you contribute. You don't step back and be shy. You do it.
Okay, Erica would like to add something, and then we'll go to Kelly.
You changed my question, and I didn't get a chance to really address.
Sorry, Professor.
Yes. So I guess what I wanted to add is, when I first started this, I'm so glad that you have what you have here, because I found that men listen to me, my colleagues listen to me, male students listen to me, but what I struggled with was finding women who were older than me and could advise me with questions I couldn't ask other people. That's what I was looking for. And so this idea of mentorship that Kelly's talking about, and Julie was one of my very early supporters. She didn't even know me, and I was like, hey, I'll do that. And she took a chance on me. And so I think that finding the women older than you that you can ask questions to and they'll be honest with you, that will help you find your voice.
I'd just like to say that I like to find the students and ask them questions, because a lot of times they're like, well, why are you doing it like that? Why don't you just do that? I'm like, oh my God, they just cut like 7 hours out of my day with that damn email app that like puts everything in one inbox. So thank you, millennials. Kelly.
It really starts with how we refer to ourselves and how we talk about ourselves. Here's a couple of examples of things I heard in the last 2 days. Well, who am I to do this? I sat right over there, and a young woman said to me, well, who am I to write a blog for my company? What do I know? And I said, who you are is who you are. What you do is what you do, and you're strong and you're smart and you have a lot to say. And she kind of put her head down for a second and then said, you know, you're right. I heard women sitting on this panel and the woman in the panel before saying they were lucky. How many men do you hear say they're lucky about anywhere that they got in their lives? We're not lucky. We worked hard and we earned where we are today. So this is really more about how we allow ourselves to talk about ourselves, and just deciding that we have to be a lot more confident. We have to stand up straighter. We have to walk around like we have a right to be there and that we're not afraid, and have confidence. And sometimes we fake that confidence. It's fake it till you make it, right? But we need to project an image of confidence and strength. And that's not easy to do, but it's something we have to practice every day. And this is also about us lifting each other up, right? That we don't compete with one another, we share. That's what this entire booth is about sharing ideas, coming from a place of abundance and believing that we are all here for each other.
Thank you. I'd just like to add to that, because when I first started with Print Media Center, the same thing happened. Someone's like, well, now you got to write a blog. And I'm like, who in God's name is going to care about anything I have to say about anything? So what I did was just started writing about what I knew, and I found that other people had the same questions and the same human experience. And the only reason I'm mentioning it is because now my audience is nearing 200,000 people, because I was willing to take that chance and say, you know, I'm just going to be me. And that's how this all came about. So it does, you know, don't try to be what someone else wants you to be. If they say we want you to blog and we want you to blog about this and this is your voice and it's not your voice, maybe pass on that one, or offer an alternative that fits more into your wheelhouse, because if you're comfortable, you'll be able to do it. And Kelly and I actually just had this conversation about presentations. I had to do a presentation once where a company forced me to co-present with somebody. And I was stroking out because I can't do that. I can't be timed. And this guy was like, you know, you're going to say this and you're going to say that. And there was one section where I actually told a story, and the attendees opened up and they started interacting with me. And another manufacturer pulled me to a side and said, don't ever put anything on a slide that you can't just look at it and know exactly what you want to talk about. And that comes to owning what you want to say, and not, even if there's a message that you have to get out there, make sure you're saying it in your own way. It would be remiss of me not to make mention of all of the Me Too movement and everything going on in the world. I don't want to get into minutia here, and this is not what this is about, and I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. But how I want to phrase this question is, what is your best advice for a woman who finds herself in an inappropriate work situation? However you choose to maybe want to define that. Jules? V? Anybody? Open forum.
So I'll say, as women working in companies a lot of times with a number of men, you don't have to participate in that. You have a right to stop that. You have a right to say no to that. You have a right to walk out. You have a right to leave. You have those rights. And I feel very strongly about this because, you know, there are plenty of opportunities in the corporate world or in any type of organization for male or female to be put into a situation like that. It's not just women who are put into those situations. You know, there are leaders of both genders who place people in those situations, and regardless of your gender, you don't have to succumb to that. And I think that there is it's like a vulture mentality, and there is a thought that the people who do those kinds of things have insecurities about themselves, and they are looking for people who they perceive as weak. Because you might get punched if you come at me like that in my office. Like that it's just the reality. but I exude a confidence, and a presence in a room that people would not feel comfortable with that. So it's you have to own your voice, you have to own your presence, you have to own your space and your place in that environment, and people won't have the balls to come at you that way. And so I think it's really important, as you think about how you navigate through your life, make sure that you are doing it in such a way that expresses that confidence outwardly, so that no one ever perceives you as weak and thinking that they can prey on you, male or female.
Thank you, V. Jules.
Yeah, that was well said, sister. Well said. Yeah, I've been in situations where I have been put in very, uncomfortable, and I've had to say no, and I've had to let somebody know that that's not appropriate. But at the same time, you're trying to navigate all the politics of being in your position, right? And so, it's just not easy to just be yourself sometimes. How you dress, how you want to present yourself, and someone, well, you shouldn't dress that way, or you shouldn't come across as confident because that's attractive. Well, that's not my problem. My problem is that I want to be who I want to be, and I need other people to manage themselves. And so that's what I look for, is that I don't need to be treated differently, but I need to be respected. And yeah.
Pat? Something tells me you've seen some stuff over your career.
I have, and for 10 years I was the CEO of a large software company, and we did a lot of trade shows. We had a lot of meetings with a lot of financial services companies. We met with a lot of OWGs, and you try to be respectful. But I'm not a shy person, so I never realized that I was supposed to be a second-class citizen, so I just didn't act like one. I think for me, it was always a question of recognizing the situation and being aware that the situation could happen, and if I started to feel uncomfortable, I exited. Now, that was kind of the coward's way out. In a lot of ways, I think if I was doing it over, I might have been more confrontational, and I might have stepped on their toes with my 5-inch spike heels and let them know exactly what I thought of them. But of course, I was trying to sell for my company too, and you don't want to walk away from the big contracts by stepping on someone's instep with your 5-inch spike heel. So I never felt a need to not dress the way I wanted to. For many years, I only ever appeared in public in black leather, occasionally red, sometimes blue, and it was kind of it was my personal trademark. But it attracts an interesting set of commentary, as you might imagine. The advice I'd give to anybody today is know who you are, be willing to stand your ground, but understand the risks of every decision that you make, because there are. And sometimes you have to decide not to be, let me be politically not correct. You can't be a wimp about everything. You can't decide that every glance, every hug, every time, you can't decide that all of that has an ulterior motive, because if you want to live that way, you might as well go live in a box. Some of the younger people that I talk to today, and I talk to a lot of them, they're a lot, their personal space boundary is a whole lot different than what I remember when I was their age.
Not just that, I've heard the phrase, I'm uncomfortable with the workload. I'm uncomfortable with the workload, which is, I'm like, I'm uncomfortable with your existence. Have a nice day. Erica.
You guys have covered it really well. I think the only thing that I would add is that it is not weak to be aware. And so don't think that you shouldn't trust your instincts, and don't think that it's not important to be aware of a situation. You don't have to place yourself in something. Always know what your exit plan is. For instance, the event last night, do you know how you're going to get home from there? Do you know how to call an Uber? What is your exit plan in any given situation? And I don't say that because that it's a sign of weakness. I say that because it's a sign of being smart and aware and not naive, because things happen.
That was a great advice. Julie? Sorry. Got a Jules and a Julie.
One of my first jobs was in advertising out of college. And in the early 80s, it was still pretty Mad Men, as you can imagine. So I have my whole Me Too list from those days.
Me too.
And one of my favorite things to do was simply play dead. You're not impacting me at all, buddy, But that was just my thing. I think we're at a time right now where there's a societal shift, where at that time that behavior was absolutely normal. It wasn't even something you thought about complaining about or telling anybody about, because it was that prevalent. Everybody did it. Now, and it's wonderful to see the shift where young women are saying, I'm not putting up with this crap, and saying something. But to Pat's point, you have to do that in reason. It's all about balance. And I've fairly recently observed and been with a young colleague who, was approached by someone else in the industry, and she was upset, she complained, and it went up to the top level of the company without saying anything to the guy, without saying, get lost, So take control of your own destiny, because you can do it.
Kel?
I am very hopeful that things are getting better, and I have young daughters and young sons, and I hope that by the time they're of a certain age, I can feel very confident in both their ability to articulate their tolerances. So I think one thing I will say is to be prepared. Sometimes we get surprised by these things, and so we don't know what to say or do. So imagine being in these situations and not being surprised by them, so that you can say or do the perfect thing to put it in its proper perspective, because we still do hear things like, I probably shouldn't say this, then don't, right? Like, if you think what you're about to say is inappropriate, then just don't say it. But be prepared for, again, I loved what V said about not participating in it. What did they tell you to do if a big dog comes at you? Turn your back and walk away. Turn your back and walk away. And again, believing in a place of abundance, if that place is intolerable, if that situation is intolerable, you don't have to go back. And again, another idea about your confidence and your worth, anything about the way you look or what you wear is not equated to what your worth is, right? So this is not thinking, well, if I'm flirty and I'm pretty, I'll get a promotion. Like, I feel very confident that nobody in this room or out there feels that way anymore. And I would like to know that kind of stuff, it isn't happening anymore. And that, again, I love the idea that Title IX made us all equal. And again, that's the promised land. 'Cause we're not there yet.
No.
But we will be.
Pat, you have another comment?
Yeah, so it does go the other way too, and we've all addressed it from our gender as we would, but I think we also have a responsibility to make sure that we're not indulging in that same behavior in the other direction.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you specifically. I'm just, look, we're huggers, right? We hug people.
I have the alien. That's
You
all
got
I'm
the
saying.
alien, he's a good guy. But I'm a hugger, right? If I like somebody, if I've got a good relationship with them, I'm a hugger. And when I was running my company, I had to learn that even though I tried to treat all of my employees with respect and tried to make sure I was looking out for them, I was being a good custodian of them, I had to learn that you can't hug everybody, right? And so one of the things as you're growing in your profession, you have to read the room. You got to read your colleagues. You've got to. Not everybody wants to be hugged. Not everybody wants to be not everybody wants to be groped. I'm pretty sure that's true. Not everybody wants to be interacted with at that and have their personal space invaded. And so we have to watch too, right? We can't just assume that it's a one-way street. It really is a two-way street.
It's more a one-way street, and sometimes as a two, that you can change lanes a little, but predominantly, I agree with you 100%.
I think you just have to be respectful
You have to, exactly. Everybody just get along. Why can't we just get along? Does anybody have any questions for our panel? Anybody have any questions for our panel? Okay.
You just
Oh,
call
no,
on
no.
somebody.
No, well, we're kind of out of time, so I was just trying to make sure that if someone had a question, we definitely got that in. But I really would just want to say that it is Student Day. Erica's on the panel. There's a workforce development over there. This is a leadership panel, and it's at this point now, I'm just getting disgusted with the print industry. I can't find anybody to work in my print shop. I can't find it. What are you doing to support the students? What are you doing to go into the high schools and go in there and say, hey, principal, we'll all go through an FBI background check so you know we're fine, and we would like to open our doors once a month and invite some students over to show them cool print stuff and print cool stuff and work with the students to create projects and output them for them and get them involved in an early age. This is not to grow print shop workers necessarily, although that would be awesome because we certainly need them. But this is to make people understand that print is the original communications tool and it's not going anywhere. I mean, I don't subscribe to any of that train of thought. I never have. But we have to support the schools. So I really want to leave this last statement from Erica, please. How can the people out here and the people on the cameras at home support the graphic communications programs and support the students to either guide them to those programs or help them during and after they graduate?
Great question, and there's so many different levels to that. First, I would like to say, let's stop talking about two-year programs, associate's degrees, as being a lower level of education. Let's just stop that. Yeah. Because if we need people in technical skills that come out of college, you have got to do that. My four-year students, that's not what they're looking for. There's nothing wrong with a technical degree. It is just as admirable. So I want to start there. But I also want to say, reach out to the schools. We are drowning in paperwork and grading and thinking of the next thing and meeting with students and going over their schedules. Please reach out to us too. And reach out and ask questions. A lot of times I'm approached by a company and they want to help and they want to donate something, but remember that the effort of us learning your product or your software and then integrating it in a way that students can use it is a big investment for us. And so coming in and asking us, hey, we've got some stuff. What are you trying to teach? How can I match up the right product, the right software with you so that your students benefit? Rather than and I appreciate every donation we ever get, but if you just give me a piece of software, there is a lot more to it to get it in the students' hands. So ask those questions. And if you're trying to reach out to a school and you aren't getting a response, ask another person there. Like, keep moving around, because there's different people that communicate different ways on social media or by email or by phone, or maybe you have to show up at their door, depending on how busy they are. So I would just keep reaching out. If I didn't answer, then I would hope that you'd reach out to my colleague, and then if they didn't answer, reach out to another one. I'm not saying we don't answer emails. We just get a lot of them, just like you guys.
Thank you so much. We're going to sign off now, but before we do, I would just like to make mention of Mary Beth Smith, who's not here today. And Mary Beth Smith, she will hopefully be here next year for the 10th anniversary of Girls Who Print. She started this organization 9 years ago, obviously, and we partnered about 8 years ago on it. But without her founding this organization, which is almost 8,000 people strong now, Girls Who Print, we would not all be here. So shout out to Mary Beth Smith. Hope to see you next year. And thank you to this illustrious panel for sharing your insights, your information, your experience. And we will be back in a very short time with Viable Verticals.